in the 80s, if you could kickflip a skateboard, you were a pro, right? And go back a decade, if you could kickflip and then grind down a handrail on a set of stairs, you were a pro. Kickflip, grind down a handrail today, and you're just some 10-year-old.
Sorry, Adam, what were you saying about Jacare?
Yeah, man, Jacare's got some pretty funny stories. Like, but the one...
So we're talking Master Jacare, who's one of the founders of Alliance. We're not talking Jacare Souza.
No, so not Jacare that people would know as the MMA fighter.
Can I interject a quick bit of context for like the super newer jiu-jitsu crew? Because people will be listening and going, like, who's Marcelo? Who's Bernardo? Who's Fabio, right? So Alliance was the team you were training at, created by Fabio Gurgel, Jacare, and who else?
Gigi.
And Gigi. The most successful competition team in history, produced the greatest world champion athletes, right? Which you've mentioned a few.
Just the most.
Cobrinha, Marcelo Garcia, Gabby Garcia.
Bruno Malfacini, Lucas Lepri.
Yeah. So many.
Michael Lange.
All right. And so for a lot of this, they won't have heard of any of those people, but you can just look up some shit on YouTube. But to give you context, imagine the absolute pinnacle of competitive jiu-jitsu. This is the school. At that time. Yeah. This is the school you're at. This is the pressure cooker.
Yeah, the perfect way to describe it for newer jiu-jitsu practitioners who, may not know who these people are. The period of time that JT and I were training in Brazil, it would be the equivalent of if you were one of the people training with the Danaher Death Squad a few years ago, or if you were one of those people who today is training at B Team or New Wave, or even to some degree Atos right at the moment with how well they're doing. But, the sport keeps growing and evolving. People change teams and whatnot. So, in 10 years' time, I hope this is not the case because I'm a big fan of B Team, but like B Team won't be the top team in 10 years. Gracie Barra used to be, they're not anymore. Alliance was, they're not anymore. Like Death Squad was, it's not anymore. Like Atos was, then for a bit, then it wasn't anymore. AOJ, and then you even, the Padigo submission guys, they had their moment in the spotlight, But the time we were there, it was like the gym. But so Jacare is, so my coach, Fabio Gurgel, Jacare is Fabio's coach. Jacare is one of the few guys who trained with the original Gracies who wasn't a Gracie. So Jacare is under Hull's Gracie. Anyway, Jacare is a funny dude. And super... Like his stories were always whack, and sometimes he would speak for so long. But this one thing he used to always repeat this story, always. I don't know why, but he would be talking about whenever a student or someone would come to him, essentially asking for a discount on a membership, and say like, "Oh, coach, I don't have any money. Like, I don't have a job. Like, can I train for free or whatever? Like, this and." Jacare would always just turn to them and say, "Man, go get a job, man." Is all he would say. It's like, "You go get a job, man, and pay for your training." And he used to tell this story like out of nowhere. like you'd be like, "Hey, Jacare, how good is this sandwich?" And he'll be like, "Man, I tell you,
get a job, Adam."
Like,
I work for you. Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but I think also,
how old was he?
Like, how old is he now?
No, back then. Like, was he an older
dude? I don't know.
No.
I mean, I've only known him as an older guy, really. So I don't know how old he was at that time. But, I mean, he's told the story a lot, so it must be a recurring theme. But he's also, like, a hella tight ass. Like, when I still work... I used to work for Alliance
So let me just interject really quickly. Adam is the only non-Brazilian to teach at Alliance headquarters in Sao Paulo, or the first, I should say. I don't know if it's happened subsequently, but then also teach at the headquarters gym in Atlanta.
Yeah, Jacare's gym in Atlanta. And it's for sure changed now. I imagine there'd be a bunch of other people who have taught and come through. But when I went to Atlanta and I was there for a conference, and man, was it winter in Atlanta? I can't remember. But anyway, it was like I was there to work for Alliance, yet you know, Jacare had still given me like 2 shitty cushions off a couch and just been like, you can sleep there. And I was like, well, can't you like put me in a hotel or something, bro? And then so I slept just on the floor in his gym for a couple of days. And then when Fabio arrived with the rest of the Alliance team from Brazil, like Fabio was like, man, put this motherfucker in a hotel. It's ridiculous. And then like him and Jacare are arguing about the money that it costs to put me in a hotel. But like, you know, Fabio's pretty savage with his money as well, but he's savage in the sense that, you know, is looking at a spreadsheet essentially, and it's numbers and it's data, and there's zero emotion in it, right? And he understands that like this is a business expense. You pay for this person to have a bed to sleep on, you know. Whereas Jacare is a bit like money. So maybe he's just telling all motherfuckers to get jobs. I don't know, bro.
Unless you work for me and I won't pay you.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about the training, because I connected you two for training. That was my intent when I connected you two, was to make sure you don't turn into a fat sack of shit. And
I have a habit of that.
No, because also I knew Joey, and I think this was pre-Bulletproof actually. This is before we had kicked off officially.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey man, you're in Sydney, go see Joey.
Yeah, so we did you and I did heaps of training together in Brazil, which was, you know, super fundamental to a lot of competitions that I was really successful at. And yeah, and then you put me in touch with Joey when I moved back to Australia. And that's probably when I first started doing what you guys then, you know, created as Bulletproof. Maybe Joey and I did some sessions before it was called Bulletproof. I can't recall.
I mean, it's kind of what we've always been doing, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just the training, things always evolve, but it was never like, oh, this is Bulletproof now, you know? We just didn't have a brand and shit.
Yeah, exactly. But I definitely, and unfortunately, like I haven't trained with either of you for quite a long time, but yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, fat sack of shit's rocking up.
Hey, look good.
Thanks, bro.
Skinny little bitch.
Yeah. But yeah, the training, your styles are very different. Like training with each of you is very different. So like in part one, so training with JT was definitely this abusive figure that, you know, I mean, works for me. And I think it works for me because I really don't enjoy, I would go further than saying I don't enjoy strength conditioning, mobility, whatever. I actually just don't enjoy exercise at all. I just happen to enjoy a sport and multiple sports, and always have, you know, as a kid. I've never really enjoyed exercise, which is probably why sports, I'm not saying it's not a sport, but like sports like running or swimming don't kind of really interest me, because they're like, you're not playing a sport, even though they are a sport, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like
it's more like exercise. There's less fun and gameplay to it.
Yeah, that's right, you know. So whereas, you know, I grew up like a lot of Australians, you know, I played, you know, rugby league in school, but then as I got older, it was like racing motorbikes, and it was skateboarding, and it was surfing, and Jiu Jitsu. So I like sport. But I think it's my hatred for exercise that I kind of really like bask in the unhappiness of it, which is why I resonate.
Let's make it miserable.
Yeah, which is why I resonate a little bit more with perhaps the abuse when I'm doing it. So I was talking to a friend of mine just this week, and it's funny because this is very similar to, I had a lot of this same conversation this week, and I just said casually to him, I was like, I got to go for a run tomorrow. I hate running. And he was like, oh, do you listen to music when you run? I said, nah, and I don't. He's like, oh, why not? And he's like, what do you do while you run? I said, just bask in the misery, bro. I hate it. You know, like I feel like if I try to mask how much I hate it, you know, it's like, what was that expression that everyone was saying a while ago? It was like a political thing, like you can put lipstick on a pig or something, you know, that people were saying that all the time because a politician said it, I think. But like you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig, or like, you know, you paint a turd, it's still a turd. Yeah, and I was like, I feel like if I listen to music, I'm just trying to make it hide how much I hate this activity, you know? So when it comes to training with you guys, it's like, there's like no fun in it. Like JT just makes it just,
I think
the worse he
so
makes it, the
motivating force.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the reason why it works is I'm a sadist and you're a masochist. So
Yeah,
I enjoy seeing you suffer, and you came for the suffering. It works.
Yeah, yeah.
I also combine a little bit of emotional blackmail and picking on your insufficiencies.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
That all coalesces to make the perfect recipe to make you an animal.
But one thing that both of you guys do, despite your different like approaches to coaching, because, you know, Joey as well can obviously be a bit unforgiving when it comes to coaching and training, but he's way softer.
Pretty passive, yeah.
He's just friendlier. He says cutting details, but he says it's subtle.
Yeah.
Like Joe's subtle.
But I won't yell at you because I'm like, I'm like,
It's a waste
it's
of
a
my
waste
energy.
of my energy, yeah.
Yeah.
People say, what's your secret, JT? Why are your muscles so pumped? Why are you so strong on the mats? Is it the secret sauce? No, it's not. It's hydration, my friends. I every day am using SODI, SODII. I use it in the morning first thing, use it when I have my creatine, and I also have it before training. I'll dilute a sachet into about 500, 600 mils of water, and it just keeps me going. I don't get headaches, I don't get cramps, and I don't get tired as quickly. So this is the sachet version. They also have tubs, which is really good too. And they have awesome flavors. This is my favorite, which is salty grapefruit. They have their citrus. They've got pineapple. They've got so many good flavors. It's definitely worth checking out. So you, my friends, if you would like to be better hydrated, feel pumped, feel strong, get on the real magic sauce, which is SODI. You can get a 15% discount when you use discount code Bulletproof15, sodi.com.au.
But you guys both do something that is, I think, you know, I think just your generic coach or instructor or whatever, whether it be Bulletproof, whether it be just Olympic lifting, whether it be whatever. Right? I think your generic coach or instructor doesn't have this skill, but both of you guys do, which is the ability to detect whether the student athlete has is able to do another rep or able to do more weight or whatever, because obviously it's easy as the person doing it to feel tired and say I couldn't be or like, you know, ads, you're going to do 3 sets of 5 or whatever. I do the first 2 sets. I'm like, man, I can't do another set. Right. And a generic coach might just tell you that it's okay, or like, oh, do your best or whatever. But you guys both can very easily, at least it seems easy from where I'm standing, tell if I can do that extra set or if I can put another 20 kilos on the, you know, the deadlift or whatever. Do I have one more in me, or am I going to hurt myself, or am I actually, you know, my nervous system's shutting down. I've already like peaked for the session or whatever, which, yeah, I think is a really valuable skill to have when you're coaching people in lifting or whatever. So you guys both do that really well, which unfortunately for me means I always have to do that extra rep or that extra set. But yeah.
I mean, I'd argue that's just part of the craft in a way.
Yeah.
You got to know when to gauge intensity, right? And
Yeah,
if you know someone has a propensity towards lower intensity, then you're like, well, I'm just going to squeeze them for another 10% always.
But it is part of the craft, right? But I mean, the same way that there's a lot of things that I would do as a jiu-jitsu instructor that I think, yeah, it's just, well, if you're not doing that, you're not really an instructor. But you guys know there are plenty of dog shit gyms and instructors out there. And that's not to say that I'm amazing, but I mean, there's people who really have no business doing it, who do it. The same way there's personal trainers who have no business doing it, but they do it.
I think what I know of you is you're very emotionally invested. Like, you want your students to get better. Like, that's very clear in the way you teach, you know, your passion for what you're talking about. But then also you're watching what people are doing. You're not just on your phone. Like, I've been to seminars where someone will show a technique, people will start doing the technique and they'll get on their phone. they're not correcting people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're paying $100 to be at a seminar. You're like, what the you know, it's really, that's rubbish, right? And I know that is like that's the total opposite of your approach. You're quite hands-on and involved. You want people to get it because it means something to you. And I think that any passionate teacher displays that quality of like, you want your student to improve. You're showing this because you care about it, and you also want people to get better. And that's really integral to the like attention to detail. And I think that comes through in your coaching. And I think it doesn't matter whether it's in the field of jiu-jitsu or the field of strength training or any kind of skilled work, the coach is really invested in the student improving.
Yeah. I mean, like anyone, I have my good days and bad days, right?
Sure, yeah.
But, you know, as a coach, you're just trying to create more training partners for yourself, really. I mean, so you could argue that I'm just selfish, right? It's like the more that I can help someone else, help a student improve, the better rolling that I get out of it, you know, because of course, like I roll with all colored belts, I roll with all my students, and you know, I can be rolling with a one stripe white belt and still be learning and improving my jiu-jitsu, but you know, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I get as much out of it as I do with rolling with you guys or with a good purple, brown belt or whatever, right? Obviously, in terms of like me getting good training, I prefer to roll with someone closer to my skill set. But yeah, so one of the things, I love saying this, I've said this so many times, but it's also a bit of a catch-22 because anyone who does jiu-jitsu, you don't have to do it as a career like I've chosen to do, but if you do it as part of your life, you have to have some level of competitiveness in you because the nature of playing the sport, you're competing against, you know, you could get all wanky about it and be like, you're competing against yourself. It's like, well, yeah, but you know, if you have zero desire to win, like literally zero, you're probably not the sort of person who continues to train jiu-jitsu. So the fact that, you know, I have a bit of competitiveness in me, I then don't want to lose, right? But when you lose or start not doing as well against your students, really it's a reflection on their improvement, right? So it's kind of like you feel down on yourself because your student just tapped you or whatever, but also you then kind of feel good about it because, you know, well, a year ago they couldn't do that, right? It's not necessarily means I've gotten worse because it starts to plateau as you get further. The gains start to slow down, like anything, right? When you first start lifting, it's very easy to add an extra, you know, 5% weight or 5 kilo weight or whatever to said exercise. But when the higher up, once you then talking to Brian Shaw or, you know, Ronnie Coleman or whoever, to add 1 extra kilo becomes incredibly difficult, right? And I would always say to Joey, who started training to me as a brown belt, and this sentence I've said so many times, I said, the biggest compliment I can give you is that I regret everything I teach you. Because it's just like always comes back to bite me, you know, but it's like, yeah, it's that kind of, me as a competitor, I'm like, go fuck yourself, Joey. But like as a, not even as a coach, like now just even as friends, right? It's like, well, I'm also like super stoked to see that that's paying off or the improvement there, but also yeah, you know. So yeah. I do try to care about my students,
except for Eric.
Eric, bro, that dude.
Don't teach Eric anything unless they're 6'7", ex-pro European athlete. You know, gonna flying armbar you.
You remember I remember the first thing you said to me when you JT brought you in that night. It was, I think I taught a class. You guys did the class?
Yeah, the rollout. You didn't have the mezzanine here. The rollout mats were downstairs.
Yeah, and then and then we stuck around, did some rounds together afterwards. And you said, and I was like, this guy's tall and skinny. And I was like, you know, like I'm not been training jits, but I'll just put it on him anyway. And we're both brown belts. And then you just bashed me. And you said to me afterwards, you're like, yeah, bro, like, you're pretty athletic, but your jiu-jitsu sucks.
Did I?
Yeah. Or you said, like, yeah, you're a big, strong guy for sure, but your jiu-jitsu is pretty rubbish. Yeah. I was like, whoa.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I must have been in a foul mood or something. I'm usually a bit
You
nicer
said it in
than
a
that.
nice way, you know.
Right.
Maybe you told me it afterwards, same, but I always remember that.
But yeah, I mean, there's levels to it and there's standards, and I try to uphold not only the standards that I was held to, but the ever evolving standards of the sport. So you guys would probably remember this. Newer practitioners wouldn't, but you wouldn't believe that not that long ago there was a time where people didn't know what inverting meant or how to do it. And I remember being a blue or purple belt when it first came about and watching world champion black belts being like, what the fuck is this? And they had to learn how to do it, right? And even just this morning, I was teaching a white belt, brand new, done 10 classes or something. And I'm trying to teach him how to invert. And I said, this is not necessarily an easy movement, but the evolution of the sport has deemed this a very basic beginner movement. Obviously, limiting physical limitations aside in terms of someone's weight or if they have a bad neck or back or flexibility issues or whatever. So this is a basic movement. I'll give you a perfect example. In the 80s, if you could kickflip a skateboard, you were a pro, right? And go back a decade, if you could kickflip and then grind down a handrail on a set of stairs, you were a pro. Kickflip, grind down a handrail today, and you're just some 10-year-old. It doesn't mean that shit's easy. It's just the evolution of the sport has deemed that pretty basic. And inverting's, the same sort of thing. It's actually not an easy movement to do. And if anyone who's coached will know that when you take someone who is new to jiu-jitsu and try to get them to invert, 9 out of 10 people struggle. Yeah, you'll have the odd dude who's super flexible and just doesn't have an issue, hyper coordinated and just does it. But yeah, so I try to maintain the standards that I was held to and the ever evolving standards of the sport.
I'm excited.
Why's that?
We have an apparel sponsor, Parry Athletic.
Bro, George came through, messaged us on the Instagram, said he's been following our program for ages. He's getting stronger and more mobile. And he's got this cool gear company called Parry, and he wants to send us some stuff.
And he told me that his mission was to create the best pair of training shorts ever.
Yeah, he wanted something that he could lift and roll in, and that could accommodate thick, muscular thighs and hips.
And that suits us.
Speaks to us.
Also, what I like is I love the colorful design. It actually looks really cool.
I am the most colorful dude on the mats these days, hands down.
I think the thing that I've loved about it is just it feels good. It feels good. It looks good. And you, ladies and gentlemen, can get a discount when you go to checkout. If you go to parryathletics.com, put in the code Bulletproof20 and you get 20% off. Oh, yeah.
And I'm not, I was never someone who won worlds or whatever, but I definitely came from, a very high level gym. And I do have a lot of people come through my gym who definitely don't meet the standards. And, that's not to say that whatever belt color you are means that you should win. Not to say that a purple belt has to beat a blue belt or whatever. But I've had multiple people join my gym and that have come from a different gym, and they've asked me to downgrade them to a lower belt.
Wow.
Which I've never done. But yeah, and that's just me saying
just
it.
be
I'll
like-
cancel your membership.
Yeah.
I'm not touching that.
You could just be like, consider yourself downgraded.
Yeah.
Your respect is less.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I say to people all the time. I just respect you less. That's okay.
Yeah.
You're you. That's fine. I don't look you in the eye anymore. It's fine.
Yeah, and you don't talk to me anymore. You stand there and listen, and I don't talk to you. I talk at you, right?
Well, I talk to general. You're allowed to be in.
You may eavesdrop on the class, and that's just me talking. Go ask Andre Galvao, and he might look at me and be like, that dude doesn't. He might talk about me as someone who has really low standards or whatever. There's levels, right? And every coach will be different. And I think that's one of the really cool things about jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, that you as a student or practitioner of it, to some degree, you get to choose how difficult you make it to some degree. And what I mean by that is there's plenty of gyms that my students could go to if they were unhappy with how stingy I am with belts. And I don't think I'm stingy. I just expect a certain standard that they could go join a different gym. Like if you don't like it here, go train somewhere else, right? I don't mean that as in I'm telling students to fuck
He's
off.
telling you right now.
yeah. But-
You're listening to this. You know where you can go? You can go beyond this jiu-jitsu and get the out.
But I also say that in a way that it goes both ways. So I recently had a couple of people come to me saying, oh, I've got a grading coming, who don't train with me, right? I've got a grading coming up and I think I'm going to get my next belt. I don't think I'm ready for it. I kind of don't want it, blah, 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 blah. And I could talk about that at length, but essentially the point I'm trying to make is, well, the fact you've chosen to train at this gym, chances are you trust and respect your coach. If you don't, I don't meet many people who train at a gym where they don't trust and respect their coach, right? It's like, so shouldn't you also trust and respect his decision of giving you the belt? Like if he gives you the belt, shouldn't you trust that he thinks you deserve it and that you've earned it, right? So, it goes both ways. But yeah, there's levels to the game, man, and Joey's jiu-jitsu was super shit, but
now it's gotten better.
It's come a long way.
Much to our chagrin. There would be times when Adam and I would call. We'd do a call. I'd be like, bro, how's Joey going? He's like, he's a nightmare. He was jumping all over me, and I'm like, yeah. He hit me with that far side armbar. I knew it was coming.
Yeah,
there's been one or two times where, more than one or two times where Adam and I get on the phone and go, we've got to stop him getting good. He's improved.
He's getting too good.
Damn it, he's improved.
Yeah, that armbar's a motherfucker. So Joey does a really good far side armbar, which credit to Joey, I've now essentially stolen it and do my armbar in a very similar fashion.
Sick.
But it's actually it's the way that, so Joey and I spent a lot of time training together, like all the time. We almost never train together now because of the logistics of work, parenting, and how far away we live from each other. But we used to train together every week, like, 2, 3, 4 times a week sometimes. So, and at that period of time, and even today, if you came back to the gym today, it was like my, the main equal I would have in the gym in terms of this is my main training partner. And yeah, that far side armbar unfortunately became the only way I could escape Joey's side control. I would have to I wouldn't let him get the armbar. He would get the armbar and then I would have to escape the armbar, and that's how I would get out of side control. Horrible. He does it so well. Yeah, motherfucker, bro.
Well, as you guys know, it's my one move.
Well, you got to have one.
Gotta have one.
Awesome,
Actually, I was chatting with a mate the other day who just got his purple belt overseas, and I said, hey, congrats. And he said, bro, I'd love to train. I'd love to learn from you. And I said, yeah, bro, I'll teach you the 3 moves that I have. And he said, all I want is one.
And you're like, yeah, I got you covered, bro. Don't you worry. I got one.
What's his move when y'all train together? What's his shit?
Well, I mean, it's been ages.
JT's a real I find he's
a
a real he's a real shutdown guy. Like he loves just shutting you down.
It would be hard to say because we did most of our training together at blue and purple, really. Yeah. So, I mean, both of our... And we've trained, since then. But
I would say the last time I tapped Adam would be a leg lock related.
Would probably...
Like a foot lock or trying to get a heel hook or something like that.
Yeah, it would probably be something like that. But I don't know. I'm trying to think even what... Like, if I was addressing our purple belt days, it would be when... the only guard anyone ever played, was reverse De La Riva. It was the only guard that existed. It was the only guard anyone played. And JT and I used to play that with a combination of lapels. And I actually still do a lot of that. But I don't know, like my jiu-jitsu has changed heaps since then. And, so would have JT's. But we've probably rolled together as black belts like 3-4 times, if that.
Not a lot.
Like just again, because of the logistics, we live so far away from each other.
But Joey's right. My game is the anti-game.
Yeah,
I like to just undo whatever the you're doing, demoralize you, and then if there's time to pull out a submission, I will. But as long as you know whatever you did didn't work and you hate me for it, mission succeeded.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely. I mean, you're even without thinking about it like that, like you're very hard to do anything to. You're very hard to move. You're very hard to, like, all the structural frames of and the biomechanics of what make jiu-jitsu work are very hard to leverage against you, you know. So, you know, like if you're playing guard, it's very hard to, you know, your hip flexors are really strong, for example, and it's not as in that strength is the factor, but you understand that and the mechanics of your frames. It's very hard to separate your knee from your shoulder line, so I can even get chest to chest. And if
actually, last time I believe I tapped to Adam because I popped my own rib.
Oh, you did?
Trying
That's
to get
right.
out of f***ing side control. Adam's side control is ridiculous. And I was like, I'm going to f***ing lift him. Yeah. And my rib just went, ah.
Yeah,
and I went, ah.
That's right. That's right. And then you were out for a while. Like if any listeners, if you've never had a rib injury, you can't do anything to heal it. Like you it's just time, and it's so frustrating because, you know, any movement with it. Yeah, that's right. You almost Turkish get up and get off. Yeah.
Unsuccessful. Let's just say
actually, yeah, you, Joey, and quite recent. I'll just quickly finish this. 30 seconds are the only 3 people. So you two and someone who I rolled with recently, Jordan from Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu,
right,
who is not too dissimilar to your guys' physique.
Oh, right.
You 3 are the only people to ever deadlift out of my submissions. So in part 1, we spoke about the Plata that you just deadlifted me, shook me off. And Joey and Jordan both deadlifted, complete deadlift, when I had them in triangles and shook me off. And the only 3 people to ever do that to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't even like, I was a bit mad, but it was also like from Anchorman, where the dog opens the fridge and eats all the cheese, and he's like, I'm not even mad. Like, I'm impressed. Like, how did you do that? I was a little bit like that, like a little bit mad, but also like, that was amazing.
All right, I think we'll put a pin in it there.
No. Cheers, bro.
Thanks, mate.